Hi, I'm Madeline Judd-Kowalski, the Director of Curatorial Services at Meadow Brook Hall. We're about to check out Danny's cabin, so come on, let's go take a tour. This is the original log cabin portion that was built for Danny Dodge in 1926, the same year that his sister's playhouse Knoll Cottage was built. They were both originally located by the farmhouse, and this log cabin did stay by the farmhouse until 2013. Meadow Brook Hall moved it over to this part of the property. We were able to purchase some supplies from eBay and from antique stores that we knew were in this cabin, but unfortunately all that we had to go by was one photograph from Christmas in 1927. That was it. So we were able to find a few things that we do think that he had in here. He had very similar ones. He had a drum set that was identical to this one. Danny loved playing music. He had some toys identical to these. And then some of the furniture we have in here actually came from his father's lodge, John Dodge's lodge in northern Michigan. And we were able to take some of that, the furniture that John Dodge had at his lodge, and kind of imagine that Danny would have decorated his in a similar way. Like his father, Danny loved tinkering with engines, but he also loved camping and hunting and fishing. So some of the things that we got, like the Abercrombie pants from the 1920s and the fishing reel, those are very similar to what a boy of Danny's age would have had. Although Frances's Knoll Cottage was quite formal, kind of like Frances was and would have expected to be as a woman, this cabin was just for play. It was just for Danny to come out here and just kind of explore with his friends and play around the property. We have a photograph of Danny that greets visitors as they enter this early part of the playhouse cabin. That was Danny right about the time that the family moved into the house and right about the time that this cabin was built for him. If the pose and the horse in the background look familiar, that's because it matches the one of Danny and Frances done by Louis Betts, the large painting that you are greeted by when you enter Meadow Brook Hall today. Though this log cabin was given to Danny by his mother and father, Alfred and Matilda Wilson, in 1926, and it really did epitomize his character at that age, that he loved being outdoors, but the portion that Danny built onto it in 1937 really told the character of Danny and what he wanted to be when he grew up. So when we restored the cabin, we ended up making this workshop portion more of an exhibit, a museum exhibit about Danny's life. And this trip that he took in 1930 is represented by the campsite and the cots that he would have had on a trip like that. Now, the family always declared that the children should only go on trips if they were educational, so Danny did have to write an essay about his time on this wild trip that he took out west. And he wrote a beautiful essay about the time and about the things that he saw on this trip. And this kind of camp portion that we've built, that really tells the story and the type of locations that they had to stay in at that point in 1930. From oral history records, we do believe that this car was in this workshop portion. This is a 1919 Dodge Brothers sedan. It was the last car that was owned and driven by John Dodge, Danny's father. He had it in here, and we do think that he kind of would tinker around with this car like he did with the other items that he had in here. Danny had boats, he had planes. He just kind of loved taking everything apart. Because Danny did like to tinker with things, most of the items that were left in this workshop were eventually actually sold for scrap, we believe, because he would take the engines off, he would take all of the items apart, and really only Danny knew how to put everything back together. So that's unfortunately why we think we don't have many of the things that did originally belong in this cabin. We are lucky enough to still have this 1919 Dodge sedan though. Matilda donated it to the Detroit Historical Society along with Danny's Redbug go-kart, and so we have it on loan from them now. Now, of Danny, his brother Richard said that he was a whiz just like his father. He was more capable with tools than even some men were. One of Danny's really early toys was a German kind of tool shop. So this is a miniature steam engine that came from Germany, and he would have used it to use a drill press and other little tools just like his father would have done in his machine shop where they made Dodge cars. Again, we didn't have any photographs or really anything original from this cabin when we took ownership of it a few years ago, but we did kind of set up what we thought Danny's 1930s machine bench out here would have looked like. With the kind of inventory of the workshop in the 1930s, we knew a lot of the different types of tools and other materials that he had out here, and we were able to go a little bit further than we expected. Now this is evidence of the kind of destruction that Danny would do to his playthings as he was trying to figure out how they worked. This is an early, about 1926, red bug. They were first used as kind of go-karts, but then they became playthings for children. This also is on loan from Detroit Historical Society, and if you notice, it no longer has an engine. And when Matilda did donate it to Detroit Historical Society, it did not have one at that point. So again, that's probably one of the things that Danny took off, thought he was going to maybe make this go a little bit faster, and he never got around to it. Unlike Knoll Cottage, we were able to create large exhibit panels out at Danny's cabin, which helped tell the story through photographs and text. My favorite part of Danny's cabin is just being able to tell Danny's story. Until we moved to this cabin here, we really weren't able to interpret the great things that he did in his life, and we didn't have any space to show any of those types of things, particularly the vehicles and the campsite and the kind of guise items that he had out at his cabin and workshop. I loved learning all of those things about Danny and being able to celebrate his life a little bit more rather than just having his bedroom up in the house that doesn't really tell that much about him. Thanks so much for checking out Danny's cabin. Make sure to come Memorial Day through Labor Day, 7 days a week. You can see Danny's cabin, Knoll Cottage, and the Dodge Brothers exhibit as part of our estate walking tour. Bye, we'll see you at the hall.